In the face of heightened insecurity in Nigeria, Nigeria's largely cash-based and informal economy has made it difficult for security agencies to trace the movement of illicit funds, especially those meant for funding terrorist activities in the country, a situation that is now causing major concerns for the security agencies. Before we go into the conversation proper, let's give you a background in this intro package. Take a listen.
Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, has battled terrorism for years, and this has imposed significant human and material cost. Plagued with the emergence of Boko Haram insurgency in 2002, the terror group has killed thousands of persons, displacing more than 2.5 million others. The nation also battles with herdsmen, allegedly of Fulani origin, bandits in nearly every geopolitical zone of the country, unknown gunmen, and the infamous kidnappers. Several lives have been lost, properties destroyed, communities ravaged and abandoned, and the authorities have been on their toes to bring their menace to an end. One question that has puzzled many concerned observers over the years has been funding. Who funds these terrorist groups? How do they get sophisticated arms and equipment to carry out their operations? Organized crime seems to be the live wire of terrorism in the region. Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, while investigating a 13 billion naira fraud, traced 7 billion naira to a religious body's bank account. The chairman of the commission, Ola Olukayode, made this known during a youth, religion, and a fight against corruption event held in Abuja. According to him, the religious body obtained a restraining order preventing the EFCC from probing its leaders. The commission believes that the religious body launders money for terrorists in Nigeria. This is not the first of its kind allegation linked to terrorists. Politicians, top government officials, private individuals have also been accused of sponsoring these groups. The big question remains: why fund these terrorist groups? What is the motive? What are the counterinsurgency plans that can be used to combat this? How can blood-letting criminality be eradicated? This is what we shall be handling today on the program. Welcome to Secure the Continent.
You would agree that this, of course, is a really spiky conversation at this time. But to make sense of this is Dennis Amachree, a security expert joining from the United States, and of course, Aare Oladotun Hassan, President, Yoruba Council Worldwide, joining in from Lagos. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I'd like to, of course, start off with you, Dennis. From that report, it was revealed that the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ola Olukayode, that revealed that the anti-graft agency had uncovered how a religious sect in Nigeria is laundering money for terrorists. Now, what does this portend for the country, particularly a country that is extremely faith-based? And is this new?
Well, thank you for that question. You know, when you look at it holistically, you will see that we are not ready to fight terrorism in Nigeria because there are all these elements: religious, ethnic lords, religious leaders, politicians are all involved in it. And for it to last more than 10 years, you know, it tells you that we are not really ready to put
I'm sorry, I might just need to take you on that. You said we are not ready. So what would you tag the efforts of the security agencies, the huge sums of money the government has voted in this regard, and also the conversation both at at local and national level as regards finding a permanent solution? So far, I mean, would you want to say that those efforts don't show some sort of willingness to combat this menace?
You know, security agents are not magicians. And remember that they work within the Nigerian ecosystem, and more or less, they are controlled by the presidency, or should I say politicians, by extension. So all these people have their own agenda and their own, different kinds of opinion on what they want to do. The Buhari administration has been the one that was, we say, oh, with a military head of state is going to end and everything, but you know how it ended. A lot of we lost a lot of our military men, a lot of our security men, policemen were killed during that regime. And then, of course, nothing happened because they are being controlled by the politicians. The national interest has clashed with political interests. And that's why we have this problem continuing. Otherwise, let me put it this way to you. The EFCC, I really praise him because he's fighting a very, very strong battle, but it's a losing battle, as he has already said it. How can he go to, trace stolen funds to a religious body? And they quickly ran down to the court, got an injunction to stop him from prosecuting or arresting them. And a judge who is from the third arm of government. Remember, when we say government, we're not just talking of the executive, the presidency. We are talking of the legislators, we are talking of the judiciary, and an officer of the judiciary is stopping the EFCC from prosecuting somebody who either got his money through kidnap and ransom or terrorist funding, and then they cannot do anything. Indirectly, you tie their hands, and then they have to sit back. And all of us are sitting down and looking at it.
All right.
So if there's a concerted effort to fight this, then we're in trouble.
All right. Dennis, I'll come back to you. Let's move to, of course, our second guest on the program. That's Aare Oladotun Hassan, and take his opinion on this. Aare, thank you for joining in.
It's a pleasure to be on the program.
Yes, you've had some of the things that Dennis said. Now, what is your reaction to the revelation by the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission asserting that a certain religious sect in Nigeria is laundering money for terrorists?
Well, if we have to look at the way terrorism is being wired and the way we always see terrorism is not an abstract situation that we just have to be looking at, okay, because they are religious about body. Terrorism is everywhere. It's in the bank, it's in church, it's in mosques, it's in various places. And
I'm sorry, I would need you to really, break it down and explain, probably put it in a context. Because when you say terrorism is everywhere,
that's why I'm trying to give you an overview, general overview.
Okay.
So that the EFCC chairman don't begin to create a prism that, oh, let us just begin to concentrate on the religious sect alone. That's just one out of many nucleus or sect of how terrorism is being manifestedly seen to be operational. We can look at the fact that who are these people? Why is the EFCC equally shielding this investigation? Why not he just name and shame this religious sect and organization if they're absolutely sure? We cannot be hiding against people that are killing, maiming, and see life as a filthy tissue that they can just do things anyhow the way they want. So there is a need for us to look at this matter from the angle of the law. We have the anti-terrorism law. What about the investigation? What about the sources and traces? If the religious sect got a court order, are there no participants and players who are involved in this? Why is the FCC shielding? If the FCC is not shielding them, meaning there's connivance within government arm somewhere.
I'm sorry, I need to take you. You keep saying EFCC. Why is the FCC shielding? I mean, it's the same EFCC that
because
made a
EFCC
revelation. So
just gave us
I want to know,
an
what
information.
exactly do you mean by using the word shielding? Because it's the same
Yes,
chairman of the
shielding means
EFCC that made this
there is no
revelation,
proper
and that's why we're
disclosure.
having
If
this
you want to fight
conversation.
crime, let us know the suspects.
But
have
you
just
would
told
also
us
want to agree that there are processes to this. Maybe they haven't.
No,
maybe it's an.
listen,
I mean, it could
listen.
be an investigation in progress, and for that reason, no names. I mean, have been mentioned yet. Don't you want to say so?
For the fact that the information was laced in a public domain, you need to begin to give us accurate information. You don't give haphazard information about a concrete fact that you went to court against. If the matter is presumed before the court, meaning it's a public space already. We are all lawyers. I'm a lawyer. So there is no need for EFCC to shield us. Let us know where these facts and information are coming from. But in as much as EFCC might target a discrete sting operation, aside that, what is the DSS doing? There must be a confluence of security agencies to look at our security situation in this country. We've been talking about terrorism funding many times before now. There was a disclosure that some government officials are involved in terrorism funding in the country, but there was no proper disclosure. There is more politicking than the real service to the nation. Let us look at the issue of terrorism from different prisms, not on religious sect alone. What about those that are in government? There was an allegation against the former CBN governor that he was funding terrorism. So we know that the matter is presently before the court, but to what extent was that harm done? Who is investigating the already funded terrorism that was alleged? So that we will not just be hearing funding of terrorism as an abstract information. What we need is that the present leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs to come more frontal to give the necessary support. Let the judiciary equally look at when there are issues of national interest. They should not just be hiding on the yoke of technicalities to hid and shield crime. So if it's a religious body, no matter whose us is God, let there be full disclosure. Let that religious body begin to defend the 15 billion found in the Akiti. Out of the 15 billion, the 7 billion that was traced,
I mean,
how was the money being used?
Okay.
We need proper information.
All right. I mean, I just feel like taking you on this one. I mean, we know that, I mean, your point, you said that it's important that they name, and shame these people so that people are aware.
Yes.
And so they don't just make blanket, comments or statements and leave people guessing. However, we've seen cases in the past whereby people have also been named and maybe shamed. But then does it stop at that? Because one would also say that, I mean, the wheel of justice should run completely, where we see these people go to court and maybe sent to prison. So would you want to say that naming and shaming alone does it?
No, we have a lot of problems. There are a lot of layers of challenge, and we must look at the judicial angle to it. There must be special court for special related offenses. If we don't begin to segment our court that regulate and deal with issue of terrorism cases, and based on the experience and the benefit of doubt, that majority of these cases are thrown at conventional court that are dealing with civil cases, land, and different other issues that needs not to be mixed up. So if we have separate institutionalized methodology in dealing with terrorism, you know that, yes, from the day that we have gotten the anti-terrorism law, who have been found guilty and sentenced to death under terrorism law, we are yet to see from many years' time now. We need accurate model. The Nigerian police, how are they dealing with issue of terrorism? We have terrorism all around us. People that are committing different crimes, killing and going free under the guise of, we are connected to one police officer, we know the politician, we can do and undo. We need a proper model. If we begin to treat with kids' glove issue of terrorism, we will all be grounded one day. We have been seeing victims of kidnapping going on every day. We have been seeing, at the end of the day, unfortunately, you will see that majority of these arrested terrorists sometimes are radicalized into Nigerian army. They are even given free form to engage and carry the arms being purchased by taxpayers' money to fund those that you now you told us that, oh, they are now repentant. How did you arrive at their repentance?
Aare Oladotun, we will of course come back to you.
Grant amnesty to people that are committing this heinous crime.
We'll come back to you, Aare Hassan. Let's, of course, go back to Dennis Amachree. Of course, we would like your reaction on some of the things that Aare Hassan has said. And also, I would like to go back to one thing you highlighted in your opening remark. You talked about national and political interest being at clash or being, at the centerfold of this particular issue that we are facing in Nigeria. I would like you to expand on that and maybe react to some of the things that Aare Hassan has said.
Thank you very much. I totally agree with the Aare, about his comments here. Because when you look at it, let's first go on to the national interest thing. We have to fundamentally look at the structure of the country and the establishment, how these security agencies were established. I've mentioned this so many times in different fora, whereby you find out that, people will come out and say, what are the DSS doing? What are these people doing? The thing is very simple. They are under the presidency. The establishment of those things, they call them Department of State Services. It's a department in the presidency. And they are controlled. They cannot go out on their own to go and do whatever they want to do. They are directed, so they are under the influence of politicians. Now, when you look at it, if they are independent, then they will be pursuing the national interest. Just like we have the CIA or the FBI, their establishment is making them to be more concerned with the national interest. Remember, even all political parties have an agenda. APC has its agenda, PDP, Labour Party, all of them. And if Labour Party would have won, it is Labour Party's political agenda that the security agencies will be pursuing. If APC is winning now and they are there, it is APC agenda that is being pursued.
I'm sorry, those are pretty much weighty, what I call it, statements, because...
There is nothing weighty about it. There's nothing weighty about it, because we are separating the national interest, from, the agendas of the different kinds of political actors that we have.
So are you saying that if these institutions were autonomous and allowed to operate independently, then some sort of influence would not, stop their operations and make them look, in a way, biased? Is that what you're saying?
That is very correct. If they are independent, they will pursue the national interest.
So are you saying their lack of autonomy has prevented or in a way served as a bottleneck in their fight against terrorism?
Yes. Yes. They are not independent, so it affects.
I'm trying to understand how their autonomy would help this fight, because...
no, let me tell you. Do you remember when the DSS went to arrest Emefiele, or they were looking for him for terrorist financing? Everybody, even some lawyers came out and were shouting and, making press statements that, the DSS is not obeying law, they are not under the rule of law, the Director General should resign and all those kind of things. But later we discovered that these people are just carrying out the duties. And then, of course, when the government was ready to deal with Emefiele, then he was now taken to court and then, of course, sent to the appropriate agency. Remember, the United Arab Emirates sent a long list of terrorist financiers to the Nigerian government, in the last administration. The Attorney General of Nigeria was even asked to publish the names. And he was saying, yes, I'm going to publish it, I'm going to publish it. And he was dilly-dallying with it. He never published it until that administration left. That list is still in somebody's drawer somewhere. So this is what we are saying. All these interventions by politicians into the affairs of security is what is stopping the country from moving forward.
All right, Dennis, let me leave you just for a moment. Let's go to Aare Hassan again. I mean, I don't know if you'd like to react to some of the things Dennis said vis-a-vis the fact that the approach you would say the government has, adopted over the years in this fight, particularly against tackling the source of their financing. Do you think it's been in order?
Well, we are not just to look at the source of their financing. It's all about the modus operandi. Who is interested in terrorism act? Who is gaining? Who is, it's a trade. Maybe we're just looking at terrorism as, that's what I'm trying to inform, that interest, responsiveness of government matters to dealing with issues. Just as the way we raised the issue of Emefiele. Somebody somewhere shielded him then. Is the present government dealing with who shielded him then? There was a chief of army staff that gave him all the military forces to shield him away from the DSS. It got to a time it was like we are now like in a banana republic. So that is issue for another day. The present situation is that the government cannot be acting as a spectator to dealing with issues of criminality, especially issues that are more heinous as terrorism. Terrorism is more deadlier. Is it just the height of all crime? Killing, maiming, mass destruction, and kidnapping, all encompassed in one, are dealt with based on the intention of the doers. And there are conspirators and co-accomplices involved even within security agencies. That is the risk we all tend to believe in. If we fail to understand it, that there are nucleus of people who, for the benefit of them to act as conduits of operational modus operandi of terrorism, they are armed in different offices around the country. And they hate the smooth running of terrorism attacks within and outside the country. Unfortunately, we have seen times with that number that arms and ammunition were caught at our border without nobody being arrested. We have seen whereby helicopters were being imported without no name. Who thinks that we are just going to be run aground? It's quite unfortunate that lives, millions of lives, are being lost. And daily, just 2 days ago in Ekiti, terrorists struck. Regrettably, as at date now, where are the Southwestern leadership, our obas? I'm part of the system. But there's no communal concentration and patriotism from citizens. Citizens are far off and looking at how terrorism operates. Everybody seems to go their own separate ways.
Well, why do you think, sorry, you said that there is no cooperation from citizens. Why do you think, I'm sorry, why do you think the citizens, in your words, stand aloof?
Yes, because the government in one way or the other seems to be abating this whole sinister agenda somewhere, because nobody can tell us that they don't have records of terrorists that we know knowingly very well in this country. I'm dealing with several cases that are involved with some terrorists and criminals every day.
Okay, you know what?
They find their way. They try to beat all corners. They try to even they pay huge amounts of money.
Let's wind back. Let's wind back a bit.
If you are not well loaded, sincerely, if you are not well loaded financially, you cannot even fight a common terrorist within your own locality.
Well, let's wind back a bit. Now,
listen.
Okay.
No, we need to understand some modus operandi. The way and manner EFCC chairman just gave us the information is different from the way terrorists themselves operate within our communities. Nobody is so given that model until they are given autonomy, just as you are rightly saying. Autonomy means that they will have their separate funding, they will not be under the cockpit of the president or an executive. Even from their recruitment, it must follow some basic background checks. We don't even have background checks on who and who we are granting access to our security agencies. You have some criminals who just feel that, yes, this is the resting place for them to begin to operate. You see some officers, you know, within their characters. So there is a need for more broader perspective for us to consider this issue. From the angle of National Orientation Agency, there's nothing happening there to orientate the citizens. Funding of security agencies, there is abrupt non-funding, accurate funding of security agencies. What we just see is just palliatives and show of feast. It is not about, when you talk about deliberate funding, technology is very key. We have the need, we were just informed recently that there is less tracker, just ordinary tracker. The police are fighting to having tracker, that every police officer in Nigeria needs to have a tracker, not just the division. The police officer needs to have a tracker. So if there's no proper view, an overview of all this whole scenario, we'll just be raising the issue of terrorism as if we are just having a beer parlor discussion. This is a very serious issue. For the fact that we've had terrorism
permit me to just come in here and backtrack.
As at date, been seeing how these laws are now being used to prosecute terrorists at the moment.
All right, let's bring back this issue to within the, of course, the context of religious, what the EFCC chairman did say, pointing to some religious bodies or a particular religious sect financing terrorism. Now, we know that in Nigeria, for instance, quite a number of people, in fact, a good amount of people are religious or faith-based. Anything spiritual, you know, people, it's a soft spot for people. On a street alone, you can count the amount of churches and mosques. And you would also agree that when it comes to regulation of that sector, you know, there is little or almost nothing from the government, right? Many religious organizations are even registered as NGOs, right? So for that reason, they don't even pay taxes. You know, there's really no such light. Do you think this kind of revelation should prompt some sort of policy initiatives whereby religious bodies are now thoroughly scrutinized, particularly how they are funded?
We've had this proposed law some time ago, but because of the systemic failure we have in our system, we don't even need a special time for this. Our constitution, because we don't have a basic constitution that deals with so many issues, maybe because of our haphazard putting it together of our laws, we don't have to wait that until a special law is being made.
Aare Hassan, we cannot hear you. If you can hear me, it looks like we have some sort of network connection issue. But let's listen to Dennis Amachree's take on this question.
Okay. What was the question again? Please.
Okay, so my question is this. Do you think the revelation by the EFCC chairman should prompt the government to beam some sort of intentional searchlight into the activities of religious sectors, particularly how they are funded?
Okay. Just like Aare said, we don't need any new law because that's the problem we have in Nigeria. You know, you have assassination, you create the DSS, you need an intelligence agency, you need, you create another one, you need financial crimes, you go and create another one. We keep on creating new things, strengthen what we have. We don't have to create a new law. And our law should be so strong that everybody should be under it. The rule of law in Nigeria is missing. It's missing. And then, of course, we are so much biased in our country that religious leaders, ethnic leaders, political leaders are all trying to fight for superiority in the polity, and you keep on hearing, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Maybe they want to tell you about their connection, to one place or the other. And at the same time, when we are recruiting into the security agencies or even in the military, you find out that people cannot even join these things which are selfless. They cannot join by merit. If the police wants to recruit, you find out a whole bunch of politicians sending a list, or even the DSS wants to recruit, and then a senator will send his own list in down there, and all kinds of things. So these people go in there, and they are not ready to do the job because, as far as they are concerned, there's a godfather who had sent them there. And you cannot fire them anyhow you like.
All right.
So
all right.
it spoils the broth. And that's where we find ourselves. So religion, I think we should try to move away from it. Or we stick to the rule of law. We stick to the rule of law. No man's ox is God. Whereby whoever, is faulty should be dealt with.
All right. Aare Hassan, sorry we lost you for a moment. We didn't cut you off. I would like to know if your audio is back. Can you just say something?
Yes, very well.
Okay, we lost you for a moment, but of course we will continue or pick up from where we stopped. We need to go on a quick break. When we return this time around, we'll be looking at other angles to this particular story. Stay with us. Of course, this is still Secure the Continent, and we are talking about terrorism funding, particularly in Nigeria. We still have with us on the program Dennis Amachree, security expert, and Aare Oladotun Hassan, the president, Yoruba Council Worldwide. Gentlemen, thank you for hanging on. And great. Now, let's pick up on the angle of, will I call it this time around, cross-border cooperation in terms of blocking this funding or financing of terrorist groups. We've seen initiatives, in the past where Nigerian, not just countries, at sub-region and, continental levels, but also cooperations, try to sort of trace this funding and try to sort of block it. But what would you say as regards how the country has been able to explore and also exploit this avenue in terms of partnership, across countries and even corporations to ensure that, and organizations to ensure that this funding is nipped in the bud? I'd like to take your opinion on that, Aare Dotun. Can you hear me? Okay, Aare Hassan, your audio is... Okay. Aare Hassan, we are having issues with your audio. We are unable to connect you with you, okay, so you can speak now. Aare, can you hear me? Okay, while we'll of course try to connect with Aare, let's listen to Dennis on this one. Dennis, what's your take as regards how Nigeria is able to explore, cooperation with international bodies in nipping, in the bud, the funding channels of these terrorist groups?
Okay, thank you very much. In fighting terrorism, it is not just a country that could do it, because you need international connection. Most of the terrorists that we have in Nigeria are not Nigerians, and we should know that. It's not just Boko Haram. We have ISWAP, the Islamic State of West Africa province. And then we have, of course, the French-speaking Fulani headsmen who are in Nigeria, and then we used to call them bandits. Later now we call them terrorists. And those are the people that have been harassing people in the Northwest, even trying to attack Abuja. So it is an international thing, and we need to have cooperation. We used to have the joint task force with Nigeria and Niger and Chad working together in dealing with this. But again, after the coup in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, Nigeria being the head of ECOWAS, had gone ahead to place sanctions on these countries. And then, of course, you remember what just happened some 2 days ago. They have decided to even split away from ECOWAS. They are no more part of ECOWAS. That compounds our problem as Nigerians, because most of these terrorists are coming through those countries into our country. And that cooperation that we used to have will not exist again. And then, of course, let's look further than those countries. You find out that the United Arab Emirates have sent us a list, because there must be some kind of cooperation between countries. The United States is very good at it. They have a serious data base, with which they are, they can help. And then, of course, the different kinds of modern technology that you can use in tracking and tracing these people are available. So international cooperation becomes very, very important. So whatever politics we are playing, we have to consider all these connections that we have. And then if you don't play it properly, then of course you're going to cut your nose to spite your face. So these are the situation that we find ourselves.
All right, Dennis, thank you for that. Let's listen to Aare Hassan on his take concerning how Nigeria, is able to explore cooperations across nations and also organizations. Aare Hassan, can you hear me? Okay, while we still try to connect with Aare Hassan, another issue I would, of course, stay with Dennis on this is the wealth. Aare, can you hear me? Okay, let's, of course, stay with Dennis. Dennis, I'm still with you on this one. Let's talk about the welfare of these men in boots, the security forces, particularly soldiers. Now, I've had conversations in the past with a soldier who told me once that what he's paid as salary, is around the range of 50,000 naira. And this was a recent conversation. And we've seen even on social media where some of these soldiers come out to say, you know what, I earn 50,000 naira and the money I earn as salary cannot even, afford me the opportunity of going to see my family. Imagine you earn 50,000 naira and the transportation cost from where you are, of course, in the line of operation to your home is 30,000. So you ask yourself how much is left. Some will tell you it's even cheaper for them to send this money home than to be there physically with their families. So I want to go back to the issue of welfare. Do you think that in terms of remuneration of this men, who, interface on a daily basis with terrorists, with these dangerous people, do you think they are properly taken care of to motivate them to fight even more?
I don't think they are properly taken care of. And this is a very, very important question you've asked. Because, you see, we take it for granted that, these people are just there. They are soldiers. They are soldiers. We are not getting ourselves involved. And they are policemen. And then the policeman will, of course, ask for a tip on the road. Of course, it is not right for a policeman to ask for that tip, but at the same time, you have to consider that he must have been pushed to do that. Why is an American police officer not asking for bribe or asking for tips on the road? And if you bribe him, he might even arrest you because he feels insulted that you are doing this. And why are our people even not even trying to take it, but asking for it? So it all boils down to welfare, the welfare package. We are talking about lack of policemen in Nigeria. How do you even increase the number? I think that is the problem, whereby they are not doing anything about it, because how do you recruit, pay them salaries, equip all of them, buy uniforms for all of them? We have situations where policemen are buying uniforms for themselves. That should not happen. Soldiers cannot buy uniform for themselves. You know, they are all supposed to be given all these things, buy helmets, uniforms, buy the guns, which are very expensive for them, house them in barracks, make them comfortable, train them. And then you see that their morale will be so high, they will be ready to die for the country. But if their morale is not high, then you are telling them to go and fight terrorists in the bush. It becomes a problem. And that's why you find out that we have been fighting this thing for so long, more than a decade, because we cannot win this when, of course, you find out that our soldiers are not motivated. I remember the guy you're talking about. He's a soldier who came out he has been in the bush. He has come back out, and then, of course, his salary is 50,000. How does he pay home? What does he send to his family? In fact, okay, worst case scenario, if he dies, who takes care of his family and his children? How much do we respect veterans in this country? How much? How much are we appreciative of the services they give to us? When we see soldiers, in fact, here in the United States, you find out that before a flight takes off, before the first class people are called to board, they will call the people in uniform to come on board first. And when they are boarding, they will tell them, thank you for your service. It's so emotional, because you see that these people are sacrificing their lives for all of us. And in our country, we don't take them seriously. We don't care about them.
All right, Dennis. I mean, your point has been really taken, but let's listen to Aare Hassan on this one. Do you think that the Nigerian men in uniform, I'm talking about the armed forces, our security agencies, do you think that they are well taken care of in terms of remuneration, such that they themselves don't become the conduits, through which terrorism is funded?
Well, quite unfortunately that we don't have a standard in remuneration, even wages and salaries. We don't even have a disciplined method of encouraging just an average worker. Now talking about men in uniform, it is disheartening that it lasts many years before a new IG will come and begin to distribute checks for fallen heroes, and their family will be put up for media's display, which ought not to be. There must be proper administrative structure from your entry to your retirement. There must be a laid down welfare package, welfare that will take care about your own personal health, your welfare, your uniform, your everything that will motivate your activeness and service. But because there is no much of that, even the men that goes into this area of service don't passionately see patriotism as their forefront. They see the fact that what can they use the uniform to gain? And that is why you see so many crimes that are being perpetrated underneath. But it is not an excuse for government to now abate its own responsibility. The reason why we are trying to front this is for the issue of security welfare, security vote. These are just things that we should erase totally from our horizon. We need a proper minimum wage for workers, a proper expanded motivation like scholarship for the children of men in uniform, their wives, how are they being taken care of?
All right.
If they are in the position of, if they are on war duty, are they being given all their salaries and emolument and allowances properly? This manner of paying low salaries and you're expecting
outstanding performance,
bigger service, or we need review. That is our utmost clarion call.
All right.
Mr. President cannot shy away from this. Our governors must not shy away from this.
Okay.
The National Security Advisor is the mouthpiece of all security agency, and it's quite unfortunate that we've not been seeing that synergy. Just like maybe, I will come to say this, maybe because our National Security Advisor is from the arm of Nigerian Police Force, and that in one way or the other, the synergy of military men honoring an average policeman, maybe you don't understand the psychology, is there. These are unwritten rules.
I'm sure this will be another conversation for another time.
No. There are issues.
Okay.
That if the National Security Advisor are working to his responsibility, he should be the one agitating and ensuring that proper welfare, proper allowances are being paid. We are not to be talking about 250,000 naira. If 1.5 million cannot be paid to an average constable, to an average recruit, to an average person that, because that is the amount in the current economic climate that can manage
1.5 million monthly?
Yes, we have the capacity, because this same money
to a constable
by just one useless politician somewhere. If we cannot select, we have the resources, we have oil, we have other resources, we have everything, but because of our penchant for corruption, we don't see all these things.
Aare Hassan, we need to go.
It's very possible if we harness our resources positively.
Aare Hassan, we need to go. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution, gentlemen. Dennis Amachree, security expert, and Aare Oladotun Hassan, that's the President, Yoruba Council Worldwide. Gentlemen, once again, deeply appreciated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.